What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of Sheesh A Mighty. My name is Hunter Boston, and this is my little sports show that I'm starting. So I hope you enjoy what you hear. I'm going to talk some sports, specifically some college football and NFL today. Going to talk about the national championship that just happened. Going to talk about maybe the expansion to more teams than the NFL. We're going to talk about the playoffs and then the head coaching vacancies that are available right now in the league. So yeah, I hope you stick around and enjoy what you hear. All right, let's start out first with some college football talk. Of course, the talk of the town right now, the college football national championship. Georgia wins over TCU 65-7. And wow, 65-7. I was amazed the entire time that I was watching this game. I honestly thought TCU might have a chance to win this game going in, and it was pretty evident, maybe in the first quarter, that I was definitely wrong. And I know I'm not the only one out there that's going to be wrong about this, because I think a lot of people thought TCU was going to have a chance, and yeah, Georgia definitely showed up. I think they shut everybody up, saying that, yes, we've been the best team in the country all year long. We shouldn't have been getting counted out in this game. And yeah, they definitely put everybody right back in their place and showed why they have been the best team in the country all year. I mean, like I was saying, 65-7. They really just dominated the entire game. I mean, 21 points to 0 in the second quarter, 14 points to 0 in the third quarter, 13 points to 0 in the fourth quarter. TCU's only touchdown came in the first. I mean, you got to talk about some of these players in this game. I mean, Stetson Bennett, 18 for 25, 304 yards and 4 touchdowns. Crazy. And then you got Max Duggan, who people were saying he was the better quarterback out of the two here. 14 for 22 for 152 yards. And, of course, those 2 interceptions. I mean, TCU just couldn't get anything going on the ground or in the air. I mean, the running back only had 14 carries for 59 yards. It's just complete and utter domination by this Georgia team. I mean, Brock Bowers, 7 receptions, 152 yards, and 1 touchdown. It's just, I don't know. I think having TCU the win was the popular opinion of everybody, because everybody likes the underdog. Everybody likes the different storyline. And I could see why people wanted them to win, but it just almost looked like they weren't ready. It really wasn't. Georgia showed up. They looked like they were ready to go. They'd been there before. It was pretty obvious. And yet TCU looked like that team that was like a deer in the headlights almost. Just I don't know, it's like the lights were too bright for them. I don't know. I mean, I love Sonny Dykes. I love Max Duggan and that team, and I think the future's bright for them, even though Duggan's leaving. I mean, that team's not going to be sticking around. They're going to be fighting that conference. But wow, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, I know the last couple of national championship games have not been close. This one has to be the biggest of them all. And you just got to think, going into next year, are we going to see a three-peat here? I mean, this Georgia team is built to last. I mean, we saw that last year when they lost. They had, 5 first-rounders or something like that off the defense. They come back this year, and they are retooled, reloaded, and ready to go. And they might have 5 more in this draft. It's crazy. And it's just like, who's going to stop this team? I know there was that viral video going around of David Pollock talking to Nick Saban and saying how Georgia has taken over college football, and you got to know that rubs him the wrong way. Got to. Nick Saban probably has got that video on replay in the Alabama locker room and weight room and saying, guys, let's go. I think Alabama is going to be just fine. I think they're going to come back this next season. But I really don't know who is going to take on Georgia. I don't know, Kirby Smart's built a program that's really built to last, and it's just crazy. I mean, I don't think anybody was expecting this, especially after the close game of Ohio State. And you got to think of it this way. I mean, Michigan beat Ohio State, TCU beat Michigan, and then Ohio State about beat Georgia. So in theory, if you look at it that way, this game should have been a lot closer, right? Or maybe I'm just crazy, but I don't know. Just props to Georgia for they came into this game and was ready. And I don't know if they made any mistakes. I'm going to look at the box score. I don't remember them having any turnovers. Like, it just seems like this was complete domination. I mean, yeah, Georgia was 9 for 13 in third down efficiency, 1 for 1 in fourth down efficiency, had 589 yards of total offense, 12 yards per pass, 5 yards per rush, only had 4 penalties, no turnovers, 36, almost 37 minutes of possession, just on complete and utter domination. I honestly can't remember a more dominant performance coming out of any team, at least in recent memory. I know it's a recency bias, but it seems like this is like one of the most dominant, at least championship performances I have ever seen. So, yeah, I think I'm going to take a quick break, and then I really want to talk about what I think about the college football playoffs expanding. So, yeah, stick around. All right, took a quick break, and now we're back. So, I want to really talk about like the college football playoffs expanding. I think it's been a long time coming. I think 4 teams is really too small. I like the fact that, the best 4 teams are always in it. And I think that the committee has been getting it right. I think they got it right, especially this year. I think the 4 best teams in college football were in there. But you got to think, if these playoffs were just a little bigger, we could have got teams like Alabama 5, Tennessee 6, Penn State 7, Washington 8th, Tulane 9th, Utah 10th. I mean, you got to think, if we had a 12-team playoff, that also means FSU and USC are in this. That's a lot of good teams right there in college football that are left on the outskirts. I know there's been a bunch of internet stories around college football playoff to expand to 12 teams. The College Football Playoff Board of Managers members have agreed that the expanded 12-team college football field will begin with the 2024-2025 season. In September, the board voted to start the 12-team playoff field in 2026, though it left open the possibility of moving that up to 2024 or 2025. So all that talk about the 8-team, it's done. It looks like they're going to 12. And I like that. I think that that's good. I mean, I just read off the teams a while ago. I mean, you got teams like USC, Tulane, Tennessee, Alabama. And, like, if, like, the first team got a bye, TCU, USC, Michigan, USC, like, that's FSU, I mean, that's good. So I think that's the right way. But then I understand what people are saying, like, is it just going to be Georgia, Alabama, Clemson? Is the big teams just going to be the same ones in there? And I don't like that argument per se, because I think that football is a weird sport. I think anything can happen. And yes, there are dominant teams and there are dominant performances, but there's just as many close games, weird things happening. I mean, Missouri about beat this Georgia team. Yeah, people forget about that. Like Missouri, I think they went 6-5, almost beat the national champions that blew out TCU. So anything can happen in football. Anything can happen in college football. So I think having more teams in there, you have a chance of getting more games. You have a chance of maybe getting an upset and just more fun. I mean, who doesn't like more fun in football, especially college football? So I really like the idea. So I hope that happens. I know it's going to be a couple more years, so maybe Georgia is just going to run all over the place for the next couple of years, and then things will change. But I'm not counting out Alabama. I'm not counting out Clemson. Those programs are built on very strong foundations. I don't think they're going anywhere. A lot of people think USC might make a run next year, in the last year of Caleb Williams, but I'm not a big Lincoln Riley fan. Might have to go over that on a different show, but I'm just not a huge fan of Lincoln Riley. He's been a great coach. He's a great offensive coach, but I think his defenses have always fell short, especially in the big games. They seem to not get stops, but that's a story for a different time. So I think there's a lot of good going on right now in college football. I know the blowout wasn't very good TV, but I think it was just 2 teams going in. One team had been there before. One team was extremely well coached. And then there was one team that was not ready, had never been there before, kind of playing above where they thought they were. I mean, if you're a TCU Horned Frog, I think you can walk away from that game happy. I know it sucks to get blown out, but you weren't supposed to be there. They were unranked at the start of the season. Your quarterback didn't even start the season for your team. I think that you can hang your hat on the fact that your season went really well. I mean, you beat Michigan. You did come up short in the championship game, but you only lost 2 games in the season. And there's a lot of fan bases out there that would kill to be like that. So don't be too down. Don't be too down. I think the program's in a great spot. And I think that this is a historic season for TCU, and that's something they will remember for a very, very long time. So yeah, some college football talk. Sure, it didn't hit everything. Sure, I've got some things wrong. So hopefully we can resurface this conversation later on. And yeah, so let's take a little break, and then we'll talk about some NFL. All right, time to talk some NFL. So first and foremost, the playoffs are starting, so let's just run through these matchups real quick. We got Saturday, January 14th. We have Seattle at San Francisco, 4:30 p.m. on Fox. Then we have Los Angeles Chargers at Jacksonville Jaguars, 8:15 p.m. on NBC. Then on Sunday, we have Miami at Buffalo, 1 o'clock. We have New York at Minnesota at 4:30, Baltimore at Cincinnati at 8:15, and then Dallas at Tampa Bay at 8:15 on Monday. So looking at this Saturday slate, Seattle at San Francisco. This is going to be an interesting game. I know they've played each other this season already. I think the San Francisco team's going to be very, very good. And they've been very good all year long, and they haven't had any trouble. I mean, let's be honest here. They have been rolling over everybody. I mean, the San Francisco beat the Seahawks 21-13 earlier in the season. They in the same division. Did they? Yeah. So the second game of the season, San Francisco beat Seattle 27-7. And then they also beat them 21-13. So they've beat them both times they've played them this year. The way that San Francisco's playing right now, they're just lights out. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, starting a quarterback so the not 49ers. Who would have thought? I mean, I don't know how many people had that on their NFL bingo card, but I know I sure didn't. I definitely thought that Trey Lance was going to be starting right now for the San Francisco 49ers. I definitely didn't think they'd be in the playoffs with Trey Lance because I just know him coming in, not having a lot of experience. I did not know how they were going to do. You know, of course, he got hurt early in the season, and then Jimmy G came in. He played well. Then he got hurt, and then who would have thought Brock Purdy would have came in and played this well for this team? But I think it really goes to the coaching of San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan is a phenomenal coach, and I don't think he gets enough credit for being a phenomenal coach because he has Mr. Irrelevant right now leading his offense, and the scheme is just so good that I think there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that could run this offense. I mean, the run game is perfect almost. They have a great offensive line, great receivers, a great tight end, and they're coached so well, and the play calling is so well done that, I mean, they could run against anybody. And then, you know, let's just go ahead and talk about that defense. I think it's the best in the league. D'Amico Ryan's getting head coaching talks as well. It's phenomenal. Every position group, they have people there. I mean, defensive line, linebackers, secondary, corners. They're part of the secondary, I know, but everywhere you see on that defense, they don't just have players, they have stars. And Seattle is going to be in for a tough matchup here, but kind of playing with house money. They probably didn't really expect to be here. Pete Carroll is, speaking of great coaching, Pete Carroll is a great coach to take this team to the playoffs with Geno Smith, who is probably the comeback player of the year, in my opinion. I mean, to be a career backup, never to be a really a star anywhere he's been, to come into this Seattle job and do as well as he has. I know he's cooled off a little bit as of late, but he doesn't get enough credit for what he's done at the quarterback position. I believe he broke the passing record. I could be wrong, but I believe he broke the passing record at the Seahawks. So And this game right here, I think it's going to be good, but I think San Francisco will take it because I have San Francisco in the NFC Championship. So I definitely think they could handle the Seattle Seahawks here. And then next we have the Chargers and Jaguars. I think this game is going to be a lot better than a lot of people are saying because I think these two teams have a lot in common. They both have a really good running game. They both have a really good quarterback. And they both have pretty decent defenses. I think the Chargers have I think they might have a little better defense than the Jaguars, but talking about Jacksonville for a second, they are so much better than I thought they'd be. The work that Doug Peterson has done as the head coach of this team, there's nothing like it. I mean, who would have thought going from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson? What a big jump, right? Am I the only one who may have thought that might have been a big change? I mean, from the entire building burning down last year to having a proven head coach that has basically calmed the storm, calmed everybody down, regained the trust with the locker room that Urban definitely lost. Let's just be honest here. And has had this Jaguars team playing the best since Blake Bortles was the quarterback. So I think this is going to be a great game. The Chargers, they didn't make the playoffs last year. Herbert is amazing. I think it's going to be close. I personally don't think either one of these teams are going to be able to beat the Bills, Bengals, or Chiefs. But I think either one of these teams could go to the next round and make a little bit of noise, maybe put up a fight. Now, who do I think is going to win this game? I really don't know. It's in Jacksonville. I think that helps a lot because their fan base is, they can be a little crazy. And especially when their team is good, they were wearing clown masks and clown noses and stuff last year. So what a change for Jacksonville fans. But I kind of think the Chargers might have this game just because they have that experience of playing bigger teams like the Chiefs. And Jacksonville's division was a little easy this year. So I kind of like the Chargers in this game, but I think it's going to be very, very close. And then, of course, we have Buffalo and Miami. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this game because Tua is not playing for Miami. So, I think the rookie Skylar Thompson is actually starting for Miami. And I like McDaniels. I really do. He's a great coach. First year. But I think this is as far as they are going to go in the playoffs. I really do hate to say it. This Bills team is a wagon. They're really good. Sean McDermott is a great coach. He's going to have that team ready. This team is hungry. After the overtime loss last year to the Chiefs, I think this team is going to be firing at all cylinders. I think they are going to be playing their best ball in the playoffs. So I'm sorry, Miami. I don't think I like this game for Miami. I really don't. I think the Bills are going to easily take this. And then let's move along to Minnesota at New York at Minnesota. I think this game's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people are thinking. The Vikings are a great team, but they've proven to, shoot themselves in the foot, I guess you can say. They always seem to be in these very close games. And they always have winning. They're winning them. Every close game they've been into, they've found a way to squeak it out and win. I just don't know if they're going to be able to. I don't know. I think the Vikings might win this game, but I could easily see the Giants win. They beat the Giants earlier in the late in the regular season on that Greg Joseph. They beat the Giants later in the regular season off that Greg Joseph 61-yard kick. So I don't know. It being at Minnesota, I think helps them a lot with the Vikings fans in that amazing stadium. But I could easily see this game being a toss-up. I think people are writing off the Giants. If Daniel Jones shows up and is lights out, and if Saquon Barkley shows up and gets a hefty amount of carries, I could see the Giants winning this game. But in saying that, if Minnesota does the same, if Kirk Cousins shows up and plays mistake-free ball, if the defense shows up, and if Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson, which I think he will be, Minnesota should take this. So, moving along. So now Baltimore at Cincinnati. This kind of goes along with the Bills game. According to ESPN, Lamar Jackson missed his 16th straight practice yesterday. Here's my thing on this game. If Lamar doesn't play, guaranteed Cincinnati wins. If Lamar plays, I think it's going to be close. Baltimore could win, but I still think Cincinnati wins. The Bengals have been playing amazing as of late. They kind of had, stumbled out of the gates a little bit. Let's look here. I mean, they lost the first 2 games. They started 2-3. The first, 5 games. And, of course, they are on a 8 win streak right now. Not counting the Monday Night Bills game that was canceled. They're on a roll right now, and I think if Lamar is not playing, that this is going to be an easy game for the Bengals. They literally just played Baltimore without Lamar, beat them 27-16. I think it will be the exact same as what we saw there. I really do. And then probably the game that's going to be most talked about, Dallas at Tampa Bay. I'm kind of upset because I'm a Panther fan. And if the Panthers would have beat Tampa Bay when they played them the second time, we would be hosting this game. Well, and if we would have beat the Saints, knowing our Panther fan luck, we would have beat the Buccaneers and then lost to the Saints. But we lost to the Buccaneers, so we knew we were out. But we would have been hosting this game. But I'm not going to talk about that because it's not the game that's going on. But Dallas at Tampa Bay. This game, I don't know what's going to happen because the Cowboys are doing what they always do. They look really good. They have a lot of hype. But they never are really playing their best when it comes to the playoffs. I believe Dak has 7 straight games with a pick, and he's had multiple pick sixes. You cannot do that in the playoffs, and you cannot do that against Tom Brady. And Dallas had some interesting play calling in that loss to the Commanders, the last game of the season. I mean, they scored 6 points against the Commanders. When you're supposed to be firing at all cylinders, playing your best football, going into the playoffs, they scored 6 points against the Commanders. Now, they have a great defensive line, but they still let up, 26 points to the Commanders. This is supposed to be one of the best defenses in the league. 26 points to the Commanders. So, I don't know. You have Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, which have had, can I call it a terrible season? It hasn't been very, very good. It really hasn't. But that game against the Panthers, that was the Buccaneers that we knew. They were down, and then they just came back and just threw all over the Panthers. Mike Evans finally showed up this season. 10 receptions, 207 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Panthers. Tom Brady finally showed back up. 37 of 45 for 432 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's the Buccaneers that people know. And I know they lost to the Falcons at the last game of the season, but I think they were resting players. I'm not putting much into that because Tom Brady only threw the ball 17 times. So I'm not putting much into that game because the Falcons had nothing to play for, and the Buccaneers were probably resting some of their older players on that team. So I really don't know how to pick this game because it all depends on what Cowboy team shows up. Is it going to be the Cowboy team that looks lights out earlier in this season? Is the Cowboy team that beat the Eagles? I know they had Gardner Minshew, but that's still a pretty good Eagles team. Is this the team that blew out the Vikings 40-3 Or are you going to get the team that lost 40-34 to the Jaguars, 26-6 to the Commanders, or 19-3 against the Buccaneers, very first game of the season? So, and then it's like, what Tampa Bay team are you going to get? Are you going to get the Tampa Bay team that went 9-8, 8-9 actually? Sorry, I gave them an extra game. I don't need to do that. Is it going to be the Tampa Bay team that, lost to the Panthers 21-3, or is it going to be the Tampa Bay team that won 30-24 against the Panthers? I don't know. Both of these teams, just, you don't know what you're getting with them this season. Personally, if the Cowboys can show up and play to how I think the Cowboys can play, if Dak takes care of the ball, please, Dak, take care of the ball, please. You can't throw picks. I know he's trying a lot, but I think if the Cowboys do this one thing, I think if they run the ball with Zeke and Pollard, like they did when Dak was out with Cooper Rush, I think the Cowboys are at their best offensively when they are running the ball and they take a lot of that pressure off of Dak. Dak's a great quarterback. He can make great throws and he can produce very well. But I think that he is complemented so much better with a great running game, and that takes a little bit of pressure off of him. He doesn't have the focus on making huge throws all the time. So I think if the Cowboys can come out, I think if they can run the ball and Dak takes care of the ball and just makes right decisions, I think they can win this game, because I really like their defense. But then again, on the other side of the field is Tom Brady. And he's heard everything that's been said this season. Everything. He knows everybody's been talking crap about him. All his off-the-field stuff. He knows this season has been really disappointing for him. But all of that can go away in the playoffs. If the Buccaneers come out, beat the Cowboys in the first round, a lot of that stuff goes away. Now, I know they'll have a date with the 49ers, but it's like, I don't know, if you come out and you beat America's team, there's something to that. And I think Tom Brady knows that. I think the coaching staff knows it, and the rest of the players know it. So there's been a lot of these games where I really just don't know what's going to happen. But if I had to pick one team to win this, I believe it's the Cowboys, because they are the better team out of the two. They really are. So if I had to pick one, it would be the Cowboys. So just going over my picks: San Francisco, Los Angeles Chargers, Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings, Cincinnati Bengals, and then the Dallas Cowboys is who I think will be moving on to the next round in the NFL playoffs. I think these are going to be a lot of good games. I'm really excited for Saturday to see that Chargers-Jacksonville game. I'm really excited to see how the Bills come out and if they can just put away this Miami team really early. I want to see if Seattle can put up a little bit of fight against the San Francisco team. I think they can. The one thing, I'm going to go back a little bit, the one thing about the San Francisco team that I am looking out for is that right now, Mr. Irrelevant, rookie, is playing very, very well. But when is Mr. Irrelevant, the rookie, going to have that rookie game? It's just a thing. Rookies have rookie games sometimes. And I don't know if Shanahan's system is going to be able to mask that a little bit, but just something to look out for. I don't think it's going to show up maybe this game, but when you look at maybe a Cowboys 49ers or a Vikings 49ers game coming up, I think it's something to look at. I really do. So when is that rookie game going to come up? But we can talk about that more in the next episode. But yeah, so, and I honestly, that Dallas Tampa Bay game could get ugly. I think the Cincinnati Baltimore game could get ugly. I definitely think the Buffalo Bills Miami Dolphins game is going to get ugly. Honestly, the best game on this slate for me is probably the Los Angeles Chargers and Jacksonville, followed very closely by the Minnesota Vikings and New York Giants. I think I'm very excited for those two games. I think definitely Jacksonville, Los Angeles. I think they're pretty close. I think Los Angeles is going to have the upper hand because of the competition they've played this year and because of Herbert. He's a little older than Trevor. I really like Trevor. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. But yeah. So, yeah, NFL playoffs. I'm really excited for it, and hopefully we can get some reactions and talk a little bit more about it next week. All right. So, keeping it here with the NFL, let's go over some of these head coaching searches. And, of course, I want to talk about this because I'm a Panthers fan. I'm going to talk about them last, actually. So, I think I'm not entirely. I believe the Colts was the first team to fire their head coach. I think they fired Reich. Yeah, they did because they made Jeff Saturday. Interesting choice, but we don't have to talk about all of that right now. But I'm sitting here looking at the Pro Football Rumors coaching search tracker, which I just stumbled upon here, and I'm gonna go over all these jobs and what I think about each job. And I'll do the Panthers last, but just I think for the Colts job, the biggest thing for the Colts right now, I believe, is the quarterback. Their quarterback situation since Luck left has never really been the same. They had Phillip Rivers, and he did really good, made it to the playoffs. Of course, they ran into the Bills, but they just haven't been the same since Luck left. I mean, Phillip Rivers retired. They brought in Wentz. That wasn't a very good decision. Wentz, he didn't work out. Then they brought in Ryan, and that didn't work out. They started Sam Ehlinger this year. They started Nick Foles this year. It's just everything starts with the quarterback in this league. It really does. Quarterback is the most valuable position on any team. And the Colts have never been able to get a solid option at quarterback since probably that Phillip Rivers, because he was able to come in and he played well and they made the playoffs because of that. But they haven't had that since. And I think as a head coaching candidate going into this job, I think you like the running back. I think you like the offensive line. I think there's some pieces on the defense that you'll like. But the biggest thing I think is wrong with the Colts right now is their culture. They really don't have one. And I know there was reports even coming out of the locker room that it was falling apart. And then you look at who the interim coach is, the Jeff Saturday. I don't think that's on him. I think that the culture was already fractured before he even came in. I think he tried to come in and establish just something there. And I think he did a good job. I don't know. I don't think anybody would have came into this job and did good. I really don't. And so I think a head coach going into the Colts, you just got to focus on two things. You got to focus on getting a quarterback. I think, honestly, they need to draft one in this class. I think they need to look at a Bryce Young. They need to look at a C.J. Stroud. They need to look at a Will Levis, even though I'm not huge on Will Levis. I know a lot of people are. But I think you've got to look for a quarterback. And I believe they have the 4th pick in the draft. I think you got to use it on one. I think you got to try to either move up. But I think it's time to go young at quarterback. They tried it with Wentz. They tried it with Ryan. I think it's time to get a rookie quarterback in there. And then I think it's time to bring in a head coach that can establish a culture. I mean, everybody needs to look back at the Jaguars. So Urban came in, completely destroyed that building, completely destroyed the culture. Let's just be honest here. He really did. I mean, they were laughing him out of meetings. Doug Peterson came in, proven coach, Super Bowl champion. He commands respect in the locker room. And that's exactly what he did. He came in, established a trust back. I know he talked about that, establishing the trust back with the players. And that's exactly what he did. He came in. He was the same guy every single day. He established that culture that he's known for. And look how good they did. Turned that team around. They're in the playoffs right now. I really think the best thing for the Colts right now is a proven head coach that can come in and establish a culture. And if it's not like a proven head coach, I think that's fine. But you've got to have somebody who will go in, regain the trust back with the players, establish that culture. And I think that's what's going to be best for the Colts. And if they keep Ballard, they need somebody who's going to work good with Ballard, work good with Irsay, because I know he's an interesting guy. And really somebody's going to go in and establish that culture, because that's the biggest thing for the Colts right now. So I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's Jeff Saturday. I honestly don't know. If I was Jeff Saturday, I don't know if I'd want to come back. I don't know if that's a proven guy like, I don't know, Jim Caldwell maybe. I don't know. But I think that's what they need. And then, heading up to the Denver Broncos, I think that's a pretty similar situation with the Denver Broncos. I don't think they need a young upstart head coach to come into that building. I think they need a proven head coach to come in, wrangle Russ and whatever's going on there, and really get the respect back in that locker room. I honestly think Sean Payton would probably be a great hire for this team. I think he knows how to work with quarterbacks. He worked with Drew Brees all them years. I think he could work with Russ, maybe try to get him back. I'm not totally sold on Russ being washed. I think it was a terrible year for him. Very well down year. I think he's trying to, get reacclimated. He was with the Seahawks for so long. I think that it definitely showed that he wasn't used to the change. He had to pick up his family and move them to a whole different city, a whole different state. And I think that was a big deal. I think that was a big problem with Russ. Now, it's his age showing a little bit. I can see that. It is the NFL. But I don't know. I don't think that team is that far away. But I do think they need someone with some experience to go in there. They're not a team like the Texans or the Panthers that really need from the ground up, let's be honest here. Or the Cardinals. I don't know. I just think that they need somebody to go in there and command the locker room. I really like the Sean Payton, the Broncos. I really like the Jim Harbaugh. I like the Jim Caldwell. I like the Dan Quinn. D'Amico Ryans would be a good hire for them. They have a great defense. Really good. Their offense could be great. But whoever you bring in, they just have to be okay with Russ. Because Russ is going to be there. He is going to be there. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit with the Cardinals. The quarterback is going to be there. Ownership paid the quarterback a lot of money. He is going to be there. And, that's another big reason I like the Broncos job, is because that ownership they have a lot of money, let's be honest here. And they're going to be able to fork over that money. You don't just pay a couple $1 billion to come into a sports league and then you suck. I don't think that's not what they're going to do. So I think, especially for the Colts and the Broncos, I think they need an established coach. I think for the Broncos, they need someone who's willing to come in here and work with Russ. So let's talk about the Texans next, because the Texans are a mess. I don't know who wants that job. I honestly think that they're going to have to hire someone young, because I don't know one established coach that's going to want to come in and run the Texans. I don't know. Like, I see on this website that Sean Payton was granted permission for an interview. Why? Sean Payton would not. I don't think he wants the Texans job. The only reason why he would want the Texans job is if Casario's out and he gets full control of that team. Full control. Everything. Which I think Sean Payton wants a little bit of that. And I think he could get that with the Broncos. But we already talked about the Broncos. Let's talk about the Texans. I honestly see this job going to a young kind of upstart coach. I'm talking like a Ben Johnson from the Lions. I'm talking about a D'Amico Ryans from the 49ers. I'm talking like a Kellen Moore from the Cowboys. But honestly, I don't trust the Texans. Back-to-back years that you've brought in coaches for 1 year and then fired them. That's 2 wasted years, in my opinion. What coach is going to be able to come in and establish a culture and try to actually win games in 1 year? I just don't like that. And the Texans are a dumpster fire right now. Let's just be honest with you. I mean, they're a Texas team in a big city, Houston. So, I mean, they have a chance to be good, and they have been good. So, I mean, I don't think like all hope is lost with them, but I just don't know any established coach that want to go to the Texans right now. So I think it's got to be a young upstart coach that wants to go in and start from scratch. Whoever goes in, you got to start from scratch. Let's be honest here. I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be mean to the Texans players. I mean, everyone's good in the NFL. Let's be honest. Everyone's good. That's why you're there. And the Texans have some decent players, and they have some building blocks there, but it's just like they have a long way to go. And I don't like the front office. I think they made a lot of wrong decisions. So that's definitely, if there was one team on this list that I think is at the very bottom, I think it's the Texans. So, but yeah, let's talk about like one of the newest openings. And I was kind of surprised about this opening, the Arizona Cardinals. And I think this is a good job. Now, whoever comes in, just like the Broncos, you got to be ready to work with the quarterback. Kyler's going to be there. They paid him. He's going to be there regardless. He will outlast any coach they bring in. So whoever comes in, you got to know this one thing. Kyler is the guy. So you better like Kyler. And I know I saw something the other day that they were trying to trade Hopkins. If I was a new coach, I'd want Hopkins there. I don't know what happened with Cliff and Kyler, but I think that's the reason why he's gone. I think there was some kind of rift between them two. I honestly think that some kind of rift started last year because I remember the story came out that the ownership group of the Cardinals wasn't paying the playoff checks to the coaches. And I know they ended up doing it, but that's a big thing in the NFL. You want to get your playoff checks. That's why you try to get to the playoffs. Well, of course, to win games and stuff, but that's like a nice bonus to get your playoff checks. So when it's not given to you, that's a big thing. But I think it's something started brewing last year. And then, of course, this last off season, you have the whole thing with Kyler's contract and the film stuff. I think that was a big thing. I think the big rift started right there. A big crack started to form right there. And I just think Kyler and Cliff got on totally different pages. I think they were on totally different levels. And I think that's why. When a team comes down to the quarterback of the team or the coach is going to get the boot every time, especially because the quarterback is making a lot of money. But going back to the coaching search, I mean, I could see Sean Payton coming here. And, I mean, Sean Payton might not even want any of these jobs. He has his pick of the litter. He could go anywhere he wants. He could wait. He has a good job at Fox. So I say Sean Payton could get any of these jobs, but honestly, it's up to Sean Payton. I mean, they only have two people here. Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, which I think that would be a great hire for them. He's known in that locker room, in the building. I think he has a lot of respect with the players there. But I don't think the Cardinals are a project team. They're in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. They're in Glendale, Arizona. But either way, you know what I mean. And, I mean, a great city, great state, great team. I think that's a really enticing job because you do have a quarterback who has shown flashes. You do have a good receiving corps. You do have a good running back. You do have a couple good pieces on defense. I know J.J. Watt just retired. I mean, he's amazing. I mean, it's always good whenever you can retire and you're still at the top of your game. And that's it. That's what J.J. Watt's doing right now. And so I really hate to see him leave, but I'm glad he's going out on his own terms. I'm glad he's going out still playing well. But back to the search, I really like the Cardinals' job. I think that they're not as much as a project as the Texans. I don't think they're as strongly built as the Broncos. I don't know. I kind of see the Cardinals and Broncos' job to be kind of similar, but just the drama with Russ is a little bit more than the drama with Kyler. So I kind of see them two jobs as the same, but I think I like the Cardinals' job maybe a little better than the Broncos' job. I don't know. I could easily change my mind on that. Now, who they bring in, that's really up in the air. I could really see either one. I mean, they tried it with Cliff. He was kind of like the young upstart. I might could see them trying to go to a more seasoned veteran coach. But I could also see them going for another young upstart that wants to start with Kyler. Just whoever comes into this job, you've got to like Kyler, because he's going to be there. He's going to outlast anybody. So if you don't like Kyler Murray, don't go to the Cardinals job. Just for everybody out there listening who's going to be interviewing with the Cardinals soon, if you don't like Kyler, don't go. I know like all these coaching candidates are listening to this, but there's not much more I can say about the Cardinals. But so let's just go down to, of course, my favorite team, the Panthers. This Panthers job is very interesting because there is a clear front runner, and that's Steve Wilkes. And I really think there's something big in having all the players come out and say that they like him. I think there's something big with that. You look back at the Raiders team, they all really love Rich Bisaccia. Really loved him. Almost like the same as how these Panthers players like Steve Wilkes. Honestly, the Panthers players might have been more vocal about Steve Wilkes than the Raiders players were with Rich Bisaccia. And they didn't go with Bisaccia. They went with Josh McDaniels. And they went on to have not a very good season at all. They were out of the playoffs. They sat Derek Carr, basically ruined their relationship with their starting quarterback for 9 years. And they're rebuilding almost. I mean, that team was a playoff team last year, and they're almost at a rebuild. So I don't know. I don't know if the locker room of the Raiders just didn't like. I don't know. I don't know if they weren't bought in to McDaniels' stuff yet, but they liked Rich Bisaccia and they played for him. So I think there is definitely something. I think there is definitely something to look at there. And I really like Steve Wilkes. I mean, anybody that can come into that locker room where it was after Matt Rule left and turn that team, I think it was like, what, 6 wins, 6 losses after the firing. Nobody thought that was going to happen. Nobody thought that we were going to, we were expecting it to be like in the top 3 picks in the draft. Not to almost have a winning season. I mean, 7-10. I didn't think we'd be 7-10. After Matt Rule left, I thought we would lose out and we were going to be the worst team in the NFL. We literally were the worst team in the NFL for a couple of weeks. And then we go down the stretch and we were within 2 games of making the playoffs, 2 winnable games of making the playoffs. I mean, the fan base was actually excited for once. Like, I was excited to watch that Buccaneers game. I could not wait to watch that game. And I don't know if I have said that in the last couple of years of being a Panthers fan. So I think there is something there with Steve Wilkes. They already have the locker room on his side. He's a leader. He's an established coach. He has experience. I don't think he got a fair share of it all in Arizona because I think they knew Cliff was coming. And I think that he just got the boot before he can do it. So if the Panthers hire Steve Wilkes, I'm very happy with that. But, I mean, I think it is worth looking around some more because we were still 6-6 under Wilkes. But I do believe in the power of having a couple of years to build a program. I don't think you can build a program in half a season. So I do like maybe having a Ben Johnson, a D'Amico Ryans. I know I've said their names a lot because I really do like those 2 candidates. I really do. I like a Kellen Moore. I've heard some Frank Reich stuff. I don't want that. I've heard some Jim Caldwell stuff. I don't think that's the right choice. I know Jim Caldwell is a great coach, but I don't think that's the right choice. I know there's some more coaches out there, but if I had to make a choice today, I think it'd be Steve Wilkes. I think he's deserved it. Now, do you lock him up for a 7-year deal like you did with Rule? I don't know about that, but I think Steve Wilkes deserves a chance to try to build this team up. But I think Wilkes really needs a rock star offensive coordinator. I think he's a great defensive mind. But I like Ben McAdoo and what he did in the second half of the season, but I don't know if McAdoo is the answer going forwards. But I think Steve Wilkes needs to get the job. but I think he needs to have his coordinators in order that are really good. Like, our offensive coordinators be really good. And I think we need to decide on what we want to do at quarterback. I'm okay with us taking a quarterback this draft, but I don't know. I kind of like next year's quarterback draft a little better, and we can talk about the draft later, but as it gets a little closer. But I don't know. Sam Darnold played really well, but I don't know if it's worth keeping him around. If you keep him around, it needs to be a shorter years deal I mean, you can pay him a little bit, but I don't think it needs to be a very long term. I really wish we could have got a better look at Matt Corral this year. I know he was hurt for the year, but I really, really wish we would have got a better look at him, because I would much rather have Matt Corral start with the possibility of maybe a Sam Darnold than taking a flyer with one of these quarterbacks not named Stroud or Young. Because honestly, if we don't pick Stroud or Young, I don't think it's worth to have a quarterback this year. That's just my opinion. I mean, I could be very wrong. There could be some more people in this draft that are good. I know Anthony Richardson out of Florida has been getting a lot of looks. I know Will Levis has been getting a lot of looks out of Kentucky. But as a Panther fan, if we're not drafting Stroud or Young, I think it's worth giving Corral a look. Giving Corral a look. Maybe bringing back Darnold as like a bridge. I mean, maybe trying to get the most out of that team, and then seeing where we land next draft with a Caleb Williams, a Drake May, Quinn Ewers, and then people, Marcus Phoenix Jr. So I don't know. I mean, definitely the draft talk. I mean, that goes into the coach too, because whatever coach comes in, does he want to take a quarterback? Does he want to stick with what we got? Does he want to wait? So there's a lot with the Panthers to talk about. I think this Panthers job is actually pretty enticing. Not that I am biased or anything about it, but I mean, really good defense. A lot of pieces on both sides of the ball. A lot of potential on both sides of the ball. Almost a playoff team. Now, I don't know if it's as enticing as like the Cardinals or the Broncos, just because they have an established quarterback. I know. I think I can safely say that the Panthers job is definitely better than the Texans and Colts job. Let's be honest here. I think the Panthers are the best project team out of any of these. I think that anybody can come in and you have a really, really good foundation to build on. Just need a couple more pieces here and there. I mean, I'd almost put the Panthers as one of the best jobs in this entire list, but already having a established Super Bowl winning quarterback in Denver kind of hurts that, even though he did play very bad, but that helps them a lot. But there's a lot to talk about here, and I'm glad I went to go through this. It's one of the first times that I've actually went through and actually like ran through all these jobs. So it'll be interesting how this plays out for all these teams. I mean, I wish them all the best. I do. I mean, I like the Colts. I like the Broncos. I like these teams, and I want to see them do good, but it's very interesting. I mean, coaching is a huge, huge piece in any sports, all the way from rec ball to the highest level professionals. Coaching matters, and it matters even more at this level. I mean, these are grown men playing, but still having a great coach makes a team. They are leaders, and I think we've even saw that 2 weeks ago in the DeMar Hamlin stuff. Like, the strength of them coaches to go out there and stop that game, of Sean McDermott to face that team every day, try to rally his troops per se after something like that. I mean, what do you say to them? Coaching matters in this league, and that's why decisions like these are big. That's why you don't want to hire a Matt Rule that doesn't get you anywhere. It's a big deal. So good luck to all these teams. Good luck to all these teams in their head coaching searches. So I think we're almost at like 40-something minutes of NFL talk, which is kind of crazy. Didn't know I was going to do that sitting here. So let me take a break, and we'll see what else we can get into. All right, guys. So I actually think that I'm going to cut this episode off with just college football and NFL talk. So I think it's been a great first episode. I don't want to get too crazy into a bunch of stuff, get into a bunch of crazy editing and post-production stuff right now. Just kind of wanted to try out this new equipment. Wanted to try to see if I could put together an episode. So I hope what you've heard is, worth a little something. I know I probably wasn't perfect with a lot of things. I want to keep doing this. Hopefully as I go along, I'll get a little bit better with maybe doing some research. Might need to do that for a show that you're trying to put out on the internet, but we won't talk about that. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've got something out of it. I had a lot of fun sitting here and talking. I really did. So I hope I can keep putting some of this stuff out. So once again, I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you on the next one.